The signal lasted 11 seconds. In galactic terms, 11 seconds was nothing, a hiccup in the electromagnetic noise of the universe, the kind of transmission that most monitoring stations logged, filed, and forgot within the hour. The Karathi Deep Space Relay Station patience of stars had processed 412 similar signals that cycle alone. But Station Officer Krival had been doing this job for 30 years, and something about this one made all three of his hearts beat slightly out of rhythm. He played it again. It was not distress in any format the Karathi communication database recognized. There were no harmonic distress tones, no emergency frequency pulses, no standard Galactic Council SOS encoding. What it was, instead, was a human voice, calm, clipped, precise, speaking in what the translation matrix identified as English, Terran Standard. This is Captain John Mercer of the UES Resolute. We are transmitting on all frequencies. Coordinates follow. We have a colony under attack. Civilian population, approximately 40,000. If anyone is receiving this, we are responding. We will hold until the last hull plate. Mercer out. Krival sat very still. Then he pulled up the coordinates. Then he pulled up the Galactic Council species database entry for humanity. Terran, threat classification. He read it for the third time in his career. He had read it twice before out of academic curiosity. He was reading it now because 30 years of pattern recognition were telling him something important was about to happen, and he needed to remember exactly what humanity was before it did. The entry read, in part, Homeworld, Earth, Sol System. Classification, Deathworld, Category 5. Native fauna threat level, extreme. Atmospheric conditions, high oxygen, corrosive to 17 known species. Gravity, 1G standard, upper threshold for non-enhanced Karathi operation. Sentient species, human. Combat classification, unrestricted. Note, Terran military doctrine does not recognize the concept of an unwinnable engagement. Do not engage Terran forces in defense of civilian assets. Probability of proportional response, 0%. Krival forwarded the signal to Galactic Council emergency channels. He flagged it priority absolute. He added one personal note at the bottom. Whoever is attacking that colony, I am sorry for them. The colony was called Meridian's Hope. It sat on the third moon of a gas giant in the Vethra system, a human settlement 12 years in the making, carved out of a world that had tried very hard to kill its settlers and failed, because the settlers were human and therefore simply refused to be killed. They had built farms in soil that was mildly toxic until treated. They had constructed homes against winds that hit 200 kilometers per hour twice a year. They had lost people, mourned them, and kept building. 40,000 of them now. Families, schools, a small medical center that the settlers had constructed themselves because waiting for council supply ships took too long. A market square where, on the 7th day of each standard month, people gathered to trade, argue, eat, and watch their children run between the stalls. The Rakthan Raider fleet arrived at 0340 local time, when most of those 40,000 people were asleep. They came in 7 warships, not an invasion fleet, exactly, more of a harvesting operation. The Rakthan were pirates of the efficient, professional variety. They took what was valuable, destroyed what resisted, and left before any council response could be organized. They had done it 43 times across 6 systems. The math always worked in their favor. Raid fast, leave faster. Fleet Commander Gorash studied the colony's sensor profile from his command deck and was satisfied. 7 warships against a human colony with no military designation. Standard orbital suppression, ground teams in, extraction of valuables and useful personnel, departure within 4 hours. His tactical officer, Sevreth, was less satisfied. She had done more reading than her commander. Sir, she said carefully, the database flags this system as human-settled. I can see that. There is a council advisory on raiding human-settled worlds. There is a council advisory on raiding everyone's worlds, Gorash said. The council has advisories the way lesser species have breathing problems, constantly and without practical consequence. This advisory is flagged differently. Sevreth hesitated. It is filed under existential risk. From 40,000 colonists. From whatever they call for help. Gorash looked at her, then looked at the colony below, lights beginning to flicker on as their approach triggered ground-level alarms. Begin orbital suppression pattern. We will be gone before anything answers. Severeth said nothing else. She began quietly calculating jump coordinates. Just in case. Captain John Mercer had been awake for 40 minutes when the first Rakthan warship entered the system. He'd been awake because, in 12 years of commanding the UES Resolute, a mid-class human patrol vessel assigned to frontier colony protection, he had developed what his crew called the itch, an instinct that pulled him out of his bunk approximately 40 minutes before something went wrong. His crew had stopped questioning it in year 3. The Resolute was one ship. It was not a warship in the Rakthan sense, not 7 hulls of dedicated combat hardware. It was a patrol vessel. Fast, well-armed for its class, crewed by 41 humans who had signed up to protect the frontier and understood, implicitly, what that contract meant. John stood on his bridge and looked at 7 enemy contacts on his tactical display. Lieutenant Emma Vasquez, his tactical officer, was already running numbers beside him. She was from Buenos Aires originally, had a tattoo of a navigation star on her left wrist, and was the best tactical mind John had served with in 20 years of duty. She ran the numbers in about 30 seconds, confirmed them, then stood up straight and looked at him. 7-1, she said. Outgunned, outmassed. They've already begun orbital suppression on the colony. Casualties, ground teams not deployed yet. If we move now, we interrupt the suppression before they reach the surface. Then we move now. John was already walking to his station. Emma, options. She gave him 4 in under a minute. That was another thing about humans in crisis. They did not deliberate indefinitely. They assessed, decided, committed. The ability to act on imperfect information was perhaps humanity's most dangerous military quality. They did not wait for certainty. They did not require it. Option 3, John said. We go straight through the center of their formation. Emma didn't blink. That's the one where we take the most fire. It's also the one that pulls all 7 of them off the colony and onto us. He looked at her. They want to shoot at something, Emma. Let's give them something to shoot at that shoots back. She smiled, just slightly. Firing solutions ready. All hands, battle stations. John's voice came through the ship. This is the captain. 40,000 people on that moon are counting on 41 of us. You know what to do. Let's go to work. The Resolute went to full burn. What happened next entered Galactic Council records as the Battle of Meridian's Hope and became required study material at 7 military academies, including Velkareth. 1 human patrol vessel, combat rated for engagements against no more than 2 opponents, engaged a 7-ship Rakthan Raider fleet in direct combat for 1 hour and 19 minutes. The Resolute took 11 direct hits. It lost its secondary engine array in the 4th minute, its port shield generators in the 22nd, and a significant portion of its outer hull plating in the 41st. In that same period, Emma's firing solutions, recalculated continuously as the Resolute moved, twisted, and refused in defiance of all reasonable physics to simply stop, destroyed 2 Rakthan vessels outright, disabled a 3rd, and forced the remaining 4 into a defensive cluster that took them entirely out of orbital suppression range. The colony below was untouched. At 1 hour and 4 minutes, Fleet Commander Gorash attempted to re-establish orbital approach. John took the Resolute, battered, trailing atmosphere from 3 hull breaches, running on emergency power, and placed it directly between the Rakthan fleet and the moon. He did not move. Gorash stared at his tactical display. 1 ship, crippled, between his fleet and the target, not retreating, not negotiating, not doing anything that made tactical sense by any model Gorash understood. Sir, Severeth said quietly, I have been monitoring the frequency bands. They sent a distress signal when we arrived. Council response time to this system is 6 hours minimum. They did not signal the Council. Gorash looked at her. Then who? The jump signatures hit his sensors before she could answer. Not 1. Not 6. 47. 47 UES vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel across every approach vector simultaneously. Destroyers, cruisers, 2 heavy carriers, and at the center of the formation, the UES Indomitable, a dreadnought whose silhouette alone was enough to make Severeth's pre-calculated jump coordinates suddenly feel very necessary. A human voice came over all frequency broadcast. It was not angry. It was not dramatic. It was the voice of someone reading a grocery list. Rakthan Fleet. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Navy. You are in Terran-protected space. You have 6 seconds to begin withdrawal before we remove the choice. The captain of the Resolute sends his regards. 6 seconds of silence. Then Gorash said, "All ships, jump." Now. They jumped. The Indomitable's medical team was aboard the Resolute within minutes. Emma was in the corridor outside the bridge, running damage assessments with a tablet in one hand and a pressure bandage on her forearm that she hadn't bothered to explain to anyone. John was at his station, still, looking at the tactical display showing 47 friendly contacts where 7 enemy ones had been. Admiral Chun Wei's face appeared on the comm screen. She was 63 years old, with white-streaked hair and eyes that had seen 30 years of deep space operations. She looked at John for a moment. "Your signal said you'd hold until the last hull plate," she said. "We had hull plates left," John said. "You had 3. Still counts." Chenwei was quiet for a moment. Then, "Colony status?" "Untouched," Emma said from the corridor. "All 40,000 accounted for." The Admiral looked at the Resolute's damage schematic on her own display. 1 ship, 41 crew, 7 opponents. 1 hour 19 minutes. She had been in the Navy for 30 years. She had stopped being surprised by what humans did when someone threatened the people they were protecting. She hadn't stopped being proud of it. "Get your crew medical attention," she said. "Full honors, Captain. Every one of them." John nodded. "Admiral, how did the fleet get here in under 2 hours?" "The nearest response station is." "We were already moving," Chun Wei said simply, "when your signal hit the relay. You told us you'd hold." A pause. "We believed you." She ended the transmission. In the colony below, in the market square of Meridian's Hope, people were beginning to come outside. They stood in the pale dawn of their moon and looked up at the sky, where the lights of 48 human ships held quiet orbit above them. A child near the edge of the square tugged her father's sleeve and pointed upward. "Are we safe?" she asked. Her father looked at the sky for a long moment. "Yeah," he said. "We're safe." In the Korathi Deep Space Relay Station Patience of Stars, Officer Kreval received the battle report 40 minutes later. He read it twice. He added it to the file he had started 3 years ago, a personal file titled, simply, Humans. He wrote one note at the bottom of the report. The signal lasted 11 seconds. The response lasted 1 hour and 19 minutes, then 47 warships. They called it a distress signal. I am beginning to think that is not the right word. I am beginning to think the correct word is a warning.